The smell of vanilla and cinnamon from my freshly baked muffins filled my small apartment kitchen as I packed the last batch into containers, the warm steam fogging up my windows in the pre-dawn darkness. At 28, I'd built a modest but growing catering business from nothing, working 16-hour days to make ends meet while putting myself through business school at night. My hands moved with practiced efficiency as I sealed each container, checking the labels twice: blueberry lemon for the Morrison Law Firm, chocolate chip banana for the university faculty meeting, and my signature vanilla cinnamon for the tech startup that had become my best monthly client. The early morning light streaming through my kitchen window meant another day of deliveries, another step closer to opening my dream cafe. I could hear the city waking up outside, the distant rumble of early commuter traffic, the soft whoosh of the newspaper delivery truck, the gentle hum of my neighbor's coffee maker through our thin apartment walls. These sounds had become the soundtrack to my success, marking the hours I spent building something that was entirely mine. My kitchen was small but efficiently organized, every inch serving a purpose. Commercial-grade mixing bowls stacked neatly beside my stand mixer, a gift I'd bought myself after my first $1,000 month. Spice racks lined one wall, filled with expensive vanilla extract and real cinnamon bark that made my baked goods stand out from the competition. The industrial refrigerator I'd installed last year hummed quietly in the corner, packed with tomorrow's ingredients and next week's prep work. I was just sealing the containers when I heard my spare key turning in the lock, the familiar metal-on-metal scrape that usually meant my landlord was dropping off a maintenance update or my sister was stopping by unannounced. Only two people had that key, my landlord, Mr. Peterson, and my younger sister, Emma. The sound of footsteps on my hardwood floor was too light to be Mr. Peterson's work boots, which meant it was Emma, and my stomach automatically tightened with the anxiety that had become associated with her visits. "Mia, you awake?" Emma's voice carried that particular tone I'd learned to dread over the past few months. Too bright, too casual, artificially cheerful in a way that meant she wanted something. It was the same voice she'd used as a teenager when she'd borrowed my favorite sweater without asking, or when she'd crashed my car and needed me to not tell our parents until after her birthday party. In the kitchen, I called back, glancing at the clock. 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. Emma worked at a boutique downtown that didn't open until 10. What was she doing here so early? Emma appeared in my kitchen doorway, her blonde hair perfectly styled despite the early hour, not a strand out of place in that effortless way that had always made me slightly jealous. She was wearing a designer jacket I'd never seen before, soft black leather with silver hardware that caught the morning light. The jacket probably cost more than I made in a week, which should have been my first red flag. At 25, my sister had always been the pretty one, the charming one, the one who could talk her way out of anything with a smile and a tilt of her head. But lately, something had changed in her eyes, a hardness that hadn't been there before, a calculating look that appeared whenever she thought I wasn't paying attention. Her makeup was flawless too, professionally applied with subtle contouring and perfectly lined lips. For someone who claimed to be struggling financially, Emma certainly didn't look the part. Her nails were freshly manicured in a pale pink that complemented her complexion, and her jewelry, delicate gold earrings, and a matching bracelet looked expensive and new. "Morning, sis." She moved to my coffee maker without asking, pouring herself a mug like she lived here. "Wow, you're up early even for you." "Catering order for a corporate breakfast," I said, watching her carefully. "What brings you by?" Emma's smile flickered slightly. "Can't a sister visit her favorite entrepreneur? Besides, I wanted to show you something exciting." She pulled out her phone, scrolling to what looked like a real estate listing. "Look at this. I found the perfect space for your cafe. It's in the Arts District, tons of foot traffic, and the rent is amazing." I glanced at the screen. The space was beautiful. Exposed brick walls, huge windows, exactly what I dreamed of. but the address made my stomach drop. Emma, that's the Morrison building. The rent there starts at $8,000 a month. Not this unit. The owner is a friend of a friend. He said he'd give us a special deal. Only $4,000 a month, and he'll finance the renovation costs. Us. Emma's smile widened. Well, I've been thinking. You're working so hard, and I have connections in the fashion and social media world. We should be partners. I could handle marketing, social media, bringing in the right clientele. Red flags went off in my head. 3 months ago, Emma had asked to borrow $500 for car repairs. Last month, it was $1,000 for a security deposit on a new apartment she claimed to be moving to, except she was still living in the same place. Each time, she'd promised to pay me back within weeks. I was still waiting. Emma, I appreciate the thought, but I'm not ready for a partner. And definitely not ready for that kind of rent. Mia, you're thinking too small, Emma said, her voice taking on that persuasive tone she used when she wanted something. I've already talked to some investors, people who are interested in backing a trendy cafe concept. What investors? Friends of mine, people with money who want to get into the restaurant business. Something cold settled in my stomach. What friends? What have you told them about my business? Just the basics. Your revenue, your client list, your growth projections. Don't worry, I only shared the information that makes you look good. My hands started shaking. Emma, that information is confidential. Those are my clients, my financials. You had no right to share any of that with anyone. God, Mia, relax. It's not like I gave them your social security number. I'm trying to help you grow your business. Where did you get my financial information? Emma's eyes darted away from mine. You left some papers on your desk when I was here last week. I just glanced at them. I thought back to last week. Emma had come over claiming she was locked out of her apartment and needed to wait for her landlord. I'd let her stay while I went to make a delivery. When I came back, she was in my bedroom, claiming she'd been looking for a phone charger. You went through my desk. I didn't go through anything. I saw some papers and... Emma, those papers were in a locked drawer. The silence stretched between us. Emma's perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide the guilt that flashed across her face. Okay, fine. Maybe I was curious about how well your business was really doing. Sue me for caring about my sister's success. You broke into my locked desk drawer and stole confidential business information. That's not caring, Emma. That's... What? What are you going to say, Mia? That I'm a criminal? That I'm trying to hurt you? I'm trying to help you make real money instead of these pathetic little catering gigs. The contempt in her voice hit me like a slap. Pathetic little catering gigs? Emma, those pathetic gigs pay my rent and put me through school. They're building towards something bigger. Yeah, well, maybe it's time to think bigger. My investor friends are talking about putting in $50,000 for the right concept. And what do they want in return? 60% ownership stake. But Mia, think about it. 40% of a real restaurant is worth way more than 100% of a catering business run out of your kitchen. My blood ran cold. You want to give away controlling interest in my business to strangers. Partners, not strangers. And it's not giving away, it's smart business. They have the money and connections, we have the concept and skills. Emma, you don't know anything about running a restaurant. You've never worked in food service. You don't know about permits, health codes, suppliers, cost management. I know about marketing. I know about social media. I know about making places trendy and cool. That's worth something. Not 60% of my life's work. Emma's face hardened. Your life's work? Mia, you bake muffins and make sandwiches. Don't act like you're running some empire. The words stung because part of me sometimes felt the same way. Was I thinking too small? Was I being too cautious? But then I thought about my business plan, carefully crafted over 2 years. My client relationships built on trust and consistency. My savings account growing slowly but steadily. My credit score perfect because I'd never borrowed money I couldn't pay back. Emma, I need you to leave. What? I need you to leave my apartment. And I need you to promise me you won't contact these investors again using my business information. Mia, you're being ridiculous. This is an opportunity. This is you trying to profit off my work without contributing anything meaningful, just like the money you've borrowed and never paid back. Emma's face flushed red. Those were loans between sisters. And I told you I'd pay you back when I could. When Emma, it's been 3 months since the first loan. You've made no payments, not even $50. I've been having some financial difficulties. What financial difficulties? You have a job. You live in the same apartment. You keep buying new clothes. Where is your money going? Emma's jaw tightened. That's none of your business. It becomes my business when you keep asking me for money. It becomes my business when you steal my confidential information to pitch investors behind my back. I didn't steal anything. Breaking into a locked drawer and taking documents without permission is theft. Emma. God, you're so dramatic. Fine. I'll tell the investors you're not interested. But don't come crying to me when you're still making cupcakes for office parties when you're 40. She stormed toward the door, then turned back. You know what your problem is, Mia? You're scared. Scared to take risks, scared to trust people, scared to think big. That's why you'll never be more than a small-time caterer. After she left, I stood in my kitchen surrounded by the containers of muffins I'd made for paying customers who trusted me to deliver what I promised. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. I was angry, angrier than I'd been in years. Emma thought I was scared. She had no idea what I'd overcome to build this business. The 60-hour weeks while finishing college. The rejections from banks when I applied for business loans. The nights I'd fallen asleep over spreadsheets, calculating and recalculating how to make the numbers work. And she definitely had no idea about the real scope of my business. What Emma saw were the small catering gigs, the office breakfasts and birthday parties that paid the bills while I built something bigger. What she didn't see was the exclusive contract I'd just signed with 3 high-end hotels to provide their breakfast pastries and afternoon tea service, worth over $6,000 a month in recurring revenue. She didn't know about the private dinner parties I catered for wealthy clients who paid premium prices for discretion and excellence, intimate gatherings of 8 to 12 people where I charged $200 per person, and they gladly paid it for my custom menus and impeccable service. Most importantly, she didn't know I'd been approved for a small business loan to open my cafe, a loan I'd qualified for on my own merit, based on my proven track record and meticulously crafted business plan. The bank had been impressed by my steady growth, my client retention rate, and my financial projections. I'd spent months preparing for that meeting, assembling portfolios of client testimonials, photographs of my work, and detailed financial statements that showed 3 years of consistent profitability. The loan approval letter was sitting in my desk drawer, waiting for me to find the perfect location. $50,000 at a reasonable interest rate, enough to lease a small space, buy commercial equipment, and have operating capital for the first 6 months. I'd done it all myself, without investors, without partners, without anyone else's name on the paperwork. I didn't need her investors. I didn't need her connections. And I definitely didn't need her stealing my work and trying to sell it to strangers. But I did need to find out what Emma was really up to. I grabbed my phone and called my friend Jake, who worked in digital marketing. Jake, it's Mia. I need a favor. Can you do some research on someone for me? Sure, what do you need? My sister Emma mentioned some investors who want to back restaurant ventures. She was vague about who they are, but she's been spending money she doesn't have and asking me for loans. I'm worried she might be involved in something shady. What's her full name and where does she work? I gave him Emma's information and waited while he did some quick online searches. Mia, Jake's voice was grim. Your sister's been posting on social media about being a business consultant for restaurant startups. She's got photos of herself at expensive restaurants, claiming she's scouting locations for clients. But according to her employment records, she still works part-time at that boutique. What else? There are some concerning connections. She's been tagged in photos with Marcus Wheeler. Do you know that name? No. He's been investigated for investment fraud. Nothing proven, but he's been involved with several restaurant ventures that took investors' money and never opened. Always has a partner who disappears when things go wrong. My stomach dropped. Jake, what if Emma is setting me up to be that partner who disappears? What do you mean? What if the plan is to get me to sign partnership agreements, use my reputation and business as collateral for investor money, then blame me when the restaurant fails and the money disappears? Jake was quiet for a moment. Mia, that's actually pretty sophisticated fraud. Your sister would need help to pull that off. Help like Marcus Wheeler. Yeah, Mia, I think you need to call the police. Before we continue with what happened next, I want to ask you something. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted was planning to betray you in a major way? Not just lying about something small, but actually scheming to damage your life or steal from you? Drop a comment below and tell me how you handled it. And don't forget to subscribe. We share new stories about people fighting back against betrayal every week. After I hung up with Jake, I sat in my kitchen trying to process what I'd learned. My little sister, the girl I'd helped with homework, driven to soccer practice, defended against bullies, was potentially planning to destroy everything I'd worked for. But I needed proof before I went to the police. I spent the next 2 hours canceling my catering deliveries for the day, something I'd never done before, and rescheduling them for the next morning. My clients were understanding. I'd never let them down before, so they trusted me when I said it was a family emergency. Then I did something that made me feel sick, but seemed necessary. I drove to Emma's apartment and used the spare key she'd given me months ago for emergencies. Her apartment was messier than usual, with papers scattered across her dining table like a tornado had hit an office building. What I found there made my blood run cold and my hands shake as I photographed each document. Printed copies of my bank statements going back 6 months, including my business checking account, savings account, and the account where I kept money for taxes. Someone had used my online banking login, passwords Emma could have seen me type when she was here. Photos of my catering setups with fake captions claiming Emma had organized them, descriptions of events she'd never attended and menus she'd never helped plan. Screenshots of my business Instagram with altered descriptions that made it sound like Emma was my business partner rather than my sister. But the worst discoveries were the business documents. A draft business proposal for something called Sisters Cafe Collective that described me as a junior partner in a venture managed by Emma and funded by private investors. The proposal claimed I had agreed to contribute my client list, recipes, and equipment in exchange for a 30% stake in an expanded restaurant venture. It was full of details about my business that I'd never shared with anyone: profit margins, supplier costs, client payment schedules, information that could only have come from the locked filing cabinet in my bedroom. Most chilling of all was a contract, already signed by Emma in her careful cursive handwriting, giving Marcus Wheeler power of attorney to negotiate business deals on behalf of Sisters Cafe Collective. The contract included what was clearly a forged version of my signature, close enough to pass casual inspection, but missing the small flourish I always added to the M in Mia. There were also printed emails between Emma and Marcus discussing management of the target's expectations and timeline for asset transfer. They talked about me like I was a business acquisition rather than a person, debating the best way to encourage cooperation and minimize resistance to the partnership transition. I took photos of everything with my phone, then called the police. Detective Sarah Rodriguez met me at the police station 2 hours later. "Miss Chun, "What you're describing sounds like identity theft and fraud conspiracy," she said after reviewing the photos I'd taken. "But I have to ask, did you give your sister permission to use your business information in any capacity?" "Absolutely not. She stole confidential documents from my locked desk drawer. She's been lying to investors about her role in my business, and she forged my signature on a legal document. The forgery is the most serious charge. If we can prove she signed your name without permission, that's a felony. What about the stolen financial information? Also serious, especially if she used it to defraud investors. But we'll need to prove she intended to commit fraud, not just that she was overeager to help your business." "Detective, my sister has been borrowing money from me for months and never paying it back. She's been spending money she doesn't have on expensive clothes and restaurants. And now I find out she's been presenting herself as a business consultant when she works part-time retail. This isn't about helping my business. This is about using my reputation to scam investors." Detective Rodriguez nodded. "We'll need to investigate Marcus Wheeler's background and any communications between him and your sister. Can you provide us with copies of the documents you found?" "Already done," I said, handing her a flash drive. "I also have records of every loan I made to Emma, every conversation about investors, and my business financials showing that I never authorized her to represent my company." "Ms. Chun, you should know, if your sister has already approached investors using forged documents, she could be looking at federal charges. This isn't just sibling drama anymore." That evening, I sat in my apartment feeling like my world had tilted sideways. The sister I'd loved and protected my whole life was potentially facing prison time because of choices she'd made to betray me. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Heard you called the police." "Really, Mia?" "Over a misunderstanding." I didn't reply. 20 minutes later, another text. "We need to talk. I can explain everything." I turned off my phone. 3 months later, I was putting the finishing touches on the opening menu for Mia's Kitchen, my new cafe in a charming space I'd found in the University District. The morning sunlight streamed through the large front windows, illuminating the exposed brick walls and vintage light fixtures. I'd chosen to create the warm, welcoming atmosphere I'd always envisioned. The rent was reasonable, the location perfect for my target customers, and best of all, I own 100% of it. The space had taken 2 months of renovation work, most of which I'd done myself with help from friends and a few skilled contractors. I'd refinished the original hardwood floors, painted the walls a soft cream color that complemented the brick, and installed a custom coffee bar made from reclaimed wood. The kitchen was small but efficiently designed, with professional-grade equipment I'd been able to afford because of my business loan, and the money I'd saved by not having partners to split profits with. My signature vanilla cinnamon muffins were already becoming famous in the neighborhood. I'd perfected the recipe over 3 years of catering, but something about baking them in my own space, in my own ovens, made them taste even better. The secret was using real Madagascar vanilla and grinding my own cinnamon from whole sticks, plus a touch of cardamom that most people couldn't identify, but that made all the difference. The legal proceedings had moved faster than I'd expected, like dominoes falling one after another once the first piece of evidence was uncovered. Emma Chun, age 25, pleaded guilty to identity theft, forgery, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Sentenced to 18 months in county jail, 3 years probation, and ordered to pay $8,000 in restitution for the money she'd borrowed and never returned. Marcus Wheeler, age 42, pleaded guilty to investment fraud and conspiracy charges. Sentenced to 4 years in federal prison and ordered to pay $240,000 in restitution to victims of previous scams. But the court records only told part of the story, like reading the final chapter of a book without understanding how all the characters had arrived at their fates. The investigation revealed that Emma had been involved with Marcus for over 6 months. their relationship beginning when she'd responded to a Craigslist ad for marketing consultants for growing restaurant ventures. Marcus had a system, refined over years of running similar scams across the Midwest. He'd convinced her that small business owners like me were sitting on gold mines and just needed the right push to think bigger. His method was to find people with family members who had successful small businesses, then manipulate those family members into serving as fronts for investment scams. Emma wasn't his first recruit by a long shot. He'd used the same approach with a woman in Chicago whose brother owned a food truck that served the downtown business district, and another woman in Milwaukee whose sister ran a successful bakery specializing in wedding cakes. In each case, he'd promised the recruits a share of the investment money, usually around $10,000 for their consulting services, while planning to disappear with the bulk of the funds as soon as they were collected. What made Emma's case different, and ultimately what led to Marcus's downfall, was that she genuinely believed, at least at first, that she was helping me. The borrowed money had initially gone to buying expensive clothes and dining at upscale restaurants so she could look successful when meeting potential investors. She'd taken photos of herself at trendy spots around the city, creating an Instagram presence that suggested she was already involved in the restaurant industry. She'd convinced herself that once the investment money came through, she'd pay me back with interest, and we'd both be better off. In her mind, she was doing me a favor by pushing me toward opportunities one was too cautious to pursue on my own. But as Marcus became more demanding and the lies became more complex, Emma had gotten in too deep to back out. By the time she forged my signature, she was desperately trying to avoid admitting to Marcus that I wasn't interested in his deal. The investigation also uncovered Marcus's communication with other potential targets. He had a list of over 40 small business owners across 5 states, all identified through their family members' social media posts. He'd been planning to expand his operations significantly, targeting everything from food trucks to boutique fitness studios to artisanal craft businesses. The saddest part was learning that Emma had been jealous of my business success for years. While I saw myself as barely scraping by, working constantly to build something sustainable, Emma saw me as having achieved the kind of independence and respect she wanted for herself. Instead of asking me to mentor her or help her start her own business, she'd decided to take what I'd built. My parents took the news hard. They'd always seen Emma as the one who needed protection, guidance, forgiveness. Learning that she'd committed felonies against her own sister shattered their image of our family dynamic. "We should have seen the signs," my mother said when she visited the cafe during my soft opening week. The expensive clothes, the stories that didn't add up, the way she always had excuses for not paying you back. "Mom, she's an adult. Her choices aren't your responsibility." But we enabled her, just like you did. Every time she got in trouble, we bailed her out. Every time she made a bad decision, we made excuses. We taught her that there would always be someone to clean up her mistakes. My father was quieter about it, but I could see the guilt in his eyes. "Mia, I want you to know how proud we are of what you've built, and how sorry we are that your own sister tried to destroy it. She didn't destroy it, Dad. If anything, she made me realize how strong my business really was." That was true. Fighting back against Emma's betrayal had forced me to take a clear-eyed look at what I'd accomplished. I wasn't just a small-time caterer making cupcakes. I was a successful entrepreneur with multiple revenue streams, excellent client relationships, and a solid growth plan. The experience had also taught me to trust my instincts. When Emma's requests for money had made me uncomfortable, when her stories hadn't added up, when her behavior had seemed off, I'd been right to feel concerned. I just hadn't acted on those instincts quickly enough. Mia's Kitchen opened on a sunny Thursday morning in October, 6 months after Emma's arrest. The line of customers stretched around the block, a mix of university students, local professionals, and people who'd been following my catering business for years. My signature vanilla cinnamon muffins sold out by 9 a.m. My breakfast sandwiches were gone by 10. By lunch, I was running low on soup and had to call my supplier for an emergency delivery of ingredients. It was chaos. It was exhausting. It was perfect. Jake stopped by during the lunch rush, grinning as he watched me juggle orders. "So," he said, accepting a free coffee as payment for all his help during the investigation. "Any regrets about not taking those investors Emma found?" I looked around my small but bustling cafe. Every table was full. Customers were chatting, laughing, taking photos of their food to post on social media. The atmosphere was warm and welcoming, exactly what I dreamed of. "Not a single one," I said. That evening, after I'd cleaned up and counted the day's receipts, I found a letter that had been slipped under the cafe door. My name was written on the envelope in Emma's handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Mia, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I needed to tell you something. I've been in jail for 3 months now, and I've had a lot of time to think about what I did to you. I kept telling myself that I was trying to help you, that I was just thinking bigger than you were willing to think. But that was all lies I told myself to justify stealing from you and betraying your trust. The truth is, I was jealous. Jealous of your success, your independence, your ability to build something meaningful from nothing. Instead of asking you to help me find my own path, I tried to steal yours. I'm sorry doesn't begin to cover what I did to you, but I am sorry. I'm getting help in here, counseling, addiction treatment for the spending, and lying problems I didn't even realize I had. I don't expect you to forgive me, and I definitely don't expect you to ever trust me again. But I wanted you to know that seeing what you've built with the cafe makes me proud to be your sister, even though I know I lost the right to call myself that. I hope someday I can find a way to make my own success instead of trying to take someone else's. Love, Emma." I read the letter twice, then folded it carefully and put it in my desk drawer. I wasn't ready to forgive Emma. I might never be ready, but I was glad to know that she was finally taking responsibility for her choices. As I locked up the cafe and walked to my car, I thought about the past year. Emma's betrayal had been devastating, but it had also freed me from the fear of taking risks. If I could survive my own sister trying to steal my business, I could handle whatever challenges came with running a restaurant. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hi, Mia. This is David Kim from Food and Wine Magazine. We're doing a feature on young entrepreneurs who've overcome adversity to build successful businesses. Your story came to our attention through some social media posts about your cafe opening. Would you be interested in being interviewed?" I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back, "Yes, I'd be very interested." At 28, I'd learned that the people who try to steal your dreams usually don't understand how much work went into building them. But I'd also learned that when you build something real, something solid, it can't be stolen, only temporarily threatened. Emma had tried to take my business, my reputation, and my future. Instead, she'd given me the push I needed to claim all three more boldly than I ever had before. If you liked this story of standing up to betrayal and building something beautiful from the ashes of family drama, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We share new stories of resilience and justice every week. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever had to choose between protecting yourself and protecting a family member who was hurting you? How did you find the strength to put yourself first? Your stories might inspire others who are facing similar difficult choices. Thanks for watching. And remember, your dreams are worth protecting, even from the people who are supposed to support them. Click the notification bell so you never miss our latest stories, and we'll see you next time.